welcome to our 3-part tutorial on scene creation using our Toontown content pack. In the first part of this tutorial, I'm going to show you some simple shortcuts and basic techniques for assembling your scene to get all the buildings and props in place. Then in the second video, you'll learn about various aspects of scene lighting and shadows in order to add some more realism to your environment. I'll show you how to fine-tune the lighting as well to achieve a unique ambience in your scene. The third video expands on the lighting tutorial and deals with environmental effects such as ambient occlusion, HDR lighting, and Toon shader, which each help to complement the lighting in their own way by applying the finishing touches. We'll be using the Toontown content pack for this tutorial, which you can find in our content store. Eventually we'll end up with a beautiful scene like this, with a New Orleans at dusk sort of feel. So stick around! So let's get right into it. In iClone here, I'm going to go over to the Set tab, and in the Set tab you should have a folder called City Elements Toontown. And what I'm going to do first is actually go into Construction Elements, and I'm going to go down to the town base here and just double click that, and add that to our scene here. Now what that's going to do is that's going to add in my town base, and if I hold down the Alt key and both mouse buttons at the same time, I can zoom in and out here. If I hold down the Alt and Shift key and both mouse buttons, I can zoom in and out a lot faster. And that goes for movement as well. If I hold down the Alt key and the left mouse button, I can pan my scene like this. Alt key and the right mouse button, I can orbit my scene like this around here. Alright, so now you can see in the middle right now we have a gizmo. If I press the W hotkey, it's going to actually create a movement gizmo. The E hotkey will be the rotation gizmo. And the R hotkey will be my scale gizmo, and we'll deal with those later. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to bring up this town foundation right here to about something like that. And you can see it's a little bit curved, which kind of creates a little bit of a visual distortion, more of a Toon type visual distortion, as well as it actually creates some pretty cool effects. If you already have some terrain in place, you can actually easily place it over a regular terrain. Alright, so we're going to actually be using this street here, which is going to be our main street to place our quaint little town on here. So let's get right into it. I'm going to go over to the buildings here. And what I'm going to do is just add a few buildings into my scene here. So we'll go to buildings B01, we'll add that one in here. And then maybe we'll add another one, let's see, we'll add this A03 in here. Alright, and I can see I kind of just sloppily added those to my scene. They're kind of overlapping right here. I want to just move that over using my gizmo. I'll move this one over as well. And what I want to do as well, if I control click, I can actually have them both selected. And then I'm going to go up to here to align. And that's going to align my objects. I can actually align them on the Y-axis here, as well as the Z-axis. And I'll press OK. And then both objects will be totally aligned together. And now what I want to do is make them parallel with the ground, make sure they're grounded. So I'm going to bring this one up here a little bit. You can see the edges touching the ground there. If I zoom in though, you can see there's a little bit of a discrepancy. One of the edges is kind of off the ground. Now one way you can fix this is if I want to adjust the pivot point here, I can move that to the side. And I can just use my rotation key once that edge is on the ground and move that down, something like that. You can see it's a little bit distorted because of the Toontown style. And for this one, I'm going to show you another way that you can actually align objects with the ground if the ground is curved. We'll just bring this one up here a little bit. There we go. And you can see, of course, there's that discrepancy again. This time I'm just going to make it parallel. I'm going to make the entire building parallel to the ground. I'm going to press the W hotkey. You can see the gizmo is going straight up and down along the Z-axis here. If I press it again, it's going to be slightly tilted, which is the actual local axis of the prop. So again, this is the world axis, and this is the local axis for the prop. I'm going to use the world axis since it's pretty much already parallel, aligned with the ground there. And we'll just bring that down right there. Alright, so we're good to go. We have, we have a couple of buildings here, our first two buildings in our scene. And make sure there's a little bit of space between those two guys. And if I press the G hotkey, I can get an overhead view. And what I want to do is maybe just control click these again. I want to bring them back a little bit further from the sidewalk so we can give people some room to walk on the sidewalk. And another thing is when I actually use the align key, it actually aligns to the world axis, which you can see on the grid here. Now that's not totally aligned together with the angle for this road here. So if I press the E hotkey, I can kind of maybe just adjust that a little bit and make sure that the buildings are aligned properly with the road there. There we go. I'll bring it back down. If you ever want to adjust the lighting in your scene right away, just to get a preview of what your buildings are looking like from each side, you can hold down the / key, and that'll activate your lighting gizmo. You can see I can bring it around to all different angles here. I can get a view of all the different textures and everything of my houses. So that's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool effect you can fool around with when you have time, and we'll learn more about that in the next lighting tutorial. So I'm just going to go ahead and add some buildings to the next side of my street here, and we'll just skip through that really quickly since you are pretty much familiar with how to add buildings to your scene, how to align them, everything like that. I'll add a couple of shops here as well. If you get into a situation like this where there's actually other buildings obstructing your way, you can actually make those disappear by deselecting them in the scene manager there. And now you can see I can access these buildings here. So I'm just going to go ahead and quickly align those, same way I did with the other buildings. Now again, I'm using a lot of home row hotkeys here, which will give you different views of your scene here. F would be like the front, for example, and D would be the back. So you can go ahead and use those kind of hotkeys, which make it a lot easier to navigate to certain props in your scene. Alright, so once we're all done that, I can reactivate my buildings, bring them back here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to add some vegetation to my street here. So I'm going to go over to Town Props, and I'm going to add in some trees. So I'll bring over a plant C here. We'll just place that right on the edge of the corner here. Make sure that's visible first of all. And there we go. And I'm going to use the G hotkey to actually get an overhead view. And what I'm going to do here is use a tool called Multiple Duplicate, which is really good for creating lines of objects that are very similar. So I can press Shift D, or actually this button up here, and I'm just going to increase the number of duplicates to 3 there. And you can fool around with all the values here, but what I'm going to do is just actually stretch these out using my gizmo, and then just align them along that street there. And there we go, that should be good. I'll press OK. I'll press the F key to make sure each one is kind of aligned with the ground there. This one should be pretty good. Maybe we want to tilt that a little bit. And we can just go into the scene manager here, press the F hotkey again. You can see the buildings are sort of in the way, but we won't worry too much about that right now. Let's get all these plants aligned to the ground. There we go. And you can notice they get progressively higher off the ground the further down the slope we get of our town base here. This one would be the furthest off the ground. Alright, so once that's done, we'll do the same thing with some street lamps here. We'll bring the street lamp in. And of course, I want to press the G hotkey and make sure those street lamps are aligned along the road there. And again, I'll just skip my way through this alignment procedure just because it might be a little bit boring to hear me talk my way through it. Alright, so there we got our street lamps anyways in place. We'll just zoom out a little bit on our town. What I want to do next is just add a couple more props. No town would be complete without a phone booth, so we'll just bring our phone booth in there. After all, Superman, Spider-Man, they all need somewhere to change into their uniforms. So I'll make sure that's aligned to the ground as well, like with the previous props. And then time for some signage. We'll bring in a big sign here first, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring this sign to the very entrance of my town here. Rotate it around. We're going to call this Rabbit Hole Road. This is what my town is going to be called here. We can use the scale, the R key, the R scale there to bring that up. Even scale it on a single axis as well, like the X axis there. And there you go. Make sure that's kind of centered and grounded. Looks like we're good right there. We're going to have a pretty cool effect of this lamp shining off that sign later on, so stay tuned for that. And we'll get some more signs here with these flags. We'll bring the flag up so that it just kind of hangs between the two sides of the building here. And we can stretch that out as well. Make sure it stretches from one side of the building to one side of the street to the other. Alright, so there's our sign, and then again we'll just add in a couple other ones here. We'll just add in a nice little menu sign for our menu board for our little store here. Alright, and last but not least, I'm going to add in a nice little clock. Go into the town props here, just so people who are entering Rabbit Road know what time it is. And this clock is also going to be show a nice cool lighting effect as well by reflecting off the lamp, similar to the sign as well. So let's make sure we bring that up here. There we go. Bring that above ground, kind of rotate it around. And last but not least, I'm going to add in some ocean and some sky as well. So you can see on the dock here, what I want to do is actually go into my sky folder here. I want to actually go into the Toontown folder here. I'm going to just double click and add a sky dusk. So what I'm going to do, if I zoom out, you can see that the clouds are off in the distance there. You can see it's a really nice looking sky map, some nice natural dusky glow to it, nice yellowish color. Alright, so what I'll do next is I'm just going to add in some water now. So we need some water since we have a dock, and there's, you know, if you have a dock you need some water, obviously. So let's go to the water section here, and in water I'm just going to choose a quick gentle wave template here. You can see over here, if you want to get to the dock, you'll probably get wet first since there's water between the road and the dock here. So what I'll do quick is I'll just go over here to the water section, and if I press play, you'll be able to see the water kind of reflecting off the clouds there, and kind of just making a nice effect along the side of the dock there. And you can see that nice curved surface of my Toontown base here is kind of just creating a natural shoreline. So let's go back to frame 1 here, and we'll just adjust the height of the water a little bit. We'll make it down to 30. And there you go, that's a bit better. Now people don't have to get their shoes wet stepping onto the dock. Alright, so that's about all we're going to do in this tutorial. We have a nice town set up here. And of course you can use the / key to kind of zoom around, or sorry, rather rotate around your lighting here, and get a good idea of what the scene's going to look like when you finally do apply some lighting. Alright, so stay tuned for our lighting tutorial next. We're going to make this scene look a lot better.